All of a sudden, we're driving down this neighborhood, bumping them over traffic, and this guy opens fire on our car. Bullets are flying into the car. Stuff is insanity. One of the concepts that we were throwing around for possible commercial was to take all the wild, wacky stuff that was happening in-game and try to recreate them in real life using wire work.
Hello and welcome back to Culturescape, where we pull back the curtain on the legends who shape geek culture. I'm your host, Pete Pischke, and today's guest needs little introduction. The iconic Reuben Langdon, Dante of Devil May Cry, and Ken Masters himself. Today we're going to dive into untold stories even the super fans haven't heard about. We will be diving into Stuntman Chronicles, from stories on sets of movies like Pirates of the Caribbean to Avatar. We'll go into AI and the invasion to entertainment and technology, why voice actors and those surrounding creative industries are a little bit nervous about where AI is going on. Myself, indeed, a little bit there. And of course, UFO rabbit holes, because why not? That's always fun. So welcome back to the show, Reuben.
Glad to be here, Pete. Thanks for having me.
I thank you so much. It was a very happy surprise when he was like, I want to go back on. I'm like, I'm not sure that's happened before, especially some of your statues. Like, okay, let's do it.
Well, we had a good time. I think we had a good talk last time, and finding that last clip that kind of got misplaced from our last interview. Going back and hearing that and watching it, I was like, we had a good conversation. I'd love to keep it going.
Nice. Yeah, I'm sorry. I am sorry about that. I didn't even realize till like a few days in, and so when the commenters like, so where's the last part? I was like, what do you mean the last part? Oh, so it had clipped off that for some reason on YouTube, it clipped off the last 13 minutes of it. Whereas on Spotify, it was fine. I didn't understand it.
I figured some kind of technical glitch.
That was my bad, but sorry about that.
No worries, but it definitely made for good conspiracy theory talk. What was in the what was
That's
in the
right.
last half of the interview?
They had to stop him. They had to stop him. He was okay until he wanted to talk about. I think we were talking about aliens at the end there.
Yeah. The YouTube algorithms, they didn't want us talking about the ETs.
Yeah, the internet gremlins.
Lots of those.
Okay, let's start with something fun.
Okay.
This is a video from your YouTube channel. Okay, so.
Okay.
If this shows up on your YouTube channel and say, hey, someone's using your content, please don't strike me down.
Oh, sure, for sure.
Okay. So this is from one of the videos you had from DMC3.
Saw that. Right.
Okay, so it's DMC3 PS2 era Dante fighting monsters. There he is. Young Reuben Langdon.
Yeah.
Beating up Capcom mocap staff. Yeah, so now you just ran up a wall. You're running up the wall again.
Second take. We did several tries.
Pretend to shoot the guns. Fantastic. I love that kind of thing. That's my kind of cheese.
Yes, it's ultimate cheese. We had fun. So I guess you're looking for a little context, huh?
Yeah, I mean, how old were you back when you were doing DMC3? You haven't been that old, right?
Still in my 20s? Yeah, I think so. Late 20s, maybe. Yeah, mid to late 20s. So context on that, what had happened is so at the time I put together a stunt team in LA. It was already an existing stunt team called Zero Gravity of a group of really talented cats coming from Northern California. They had come down to Southern California, and I myself and some others, a couple other friends from Asia, we were teaching sort of Asia style martial arts with wire work, and that was my background, working with Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung and others in the Japan and Hong Kong film industry. So we had done the game. The game had sort of finished, and it was getting ready to be launched and come out. And there was talks of a commercial, and one of the concepts that we were throwing around for possible commercial, but also just to train the team that we were working with our stunt team, was to take all the wild, wacky stuff that was happening in game with these moves and try to recreate them in real life using wire work. So it was kind of a gathering of different things, different intentions, I should say. And so one, to train the stunt team, and to experiment on doing different types of wire work, and to see if we could bring the in-game movements to life in real life. So obviously still using wire work, so it's still very, very out there, but a lot of stuff that you see in the game. And at the time, CG was not as good as it is now, and now it we can recreate things that look photoreal. But the idea was to have photoreal in-game type movements, and then sort of pitch it as a possible commercial for the game. So it worked in many ways, because initially there was talk of doing this massive big commercial in the US and have a big campaign. Capcom was going to do all this stuff. And then as they were getting closer to the launch date, they rolled it all back. And the US campaign basically turned into a nothing burger. They didn't have any money or financing to do a proper commercial. The guys out in Japan saw our tests, Capcom Japan, some of the other producers, and they were like, this is amazing. We want to do something in this vein, but we just don't have the budget. So Reuben, can we fly you to Japan? No guarantee, like no money. Basically, we'll just pay your expenses, and we'll do a commercial based on what you already put together. So unfortunately, the team that we had worked with in LA to make those wire things happen never happened. Never got them to get any work. But the guys out in Japan sort of saw what we did and wanted to recreate it. And then the actual Devil May Cry Japanese version commercial was sort of modeled off of those test shots that we did.
Is that because there's another video even right next to it on your channel, and that one has blue screen. It looks like it is. I mean, they even dye your hair, so it's all.
Yeah. So that was the product of the tests that we did. So the tests that we did were, we didn't really know exactly what we were doing. It was just more of playing around and seeing what could be done physically. And then and it actually turned into something. So in a sense, it was successful. And yeah, that was the commercial for the Japan commercial.
Yeah, you could keep talking. I was just like, okay, so what are they even talking about?
Yeah. So that's the context of that. So luckily, through the our efforts of putting together that test footage, in a sense, it spawned a commercial, but just not the budget that we were originally hoping for. We were kind of hoping for a big, American national commercial with a lot of money, and we could bring everybody together. But unfortunately, that didn't happen, but something happened. Better than nothing.
I just like the energy of these videos, and that's kind of how I feel about gaming too. It's like, this is all fun. We're all really into this. Everyone's having a good time. Yeah, it's a little cheesy. It's a little corny, but
For sure.
mean, it's fun. It's grand. People love it. Sometimes I feel like that era, we lost it a little bit, because I feel like games are now so big, and sometimes they're like too serious. We're like, oh, let's take a step back.
Yeah.
That might be just me.
Yeah, no, I think, when games get too big and there's so much money on involved and the stakes are high, then yeah, there's no room for play. There's no, let's try and be goofy and do something over here that, that's different. And Devil May Cry was one of those gems where it had already, with 1 and 2, it became established, but they were looking to do something different with 3. And there was a little bit of creative wiggle room, so to say, with the direction of the character and some of the director Shimomura-san, who came to direct the cutscenes. He had a vision, but also everybody was just it was a giant experiment, and it went well. I think if we're still talking about all these years later, so obviously it must have done something.
Oh, they're good. They hold up. I just was watching some cutscenes even from DMC3 today. So I just love it because he gets like attacked by these demons. They're like sticking knives in his gut, and he's like, oh, and he grabs pizza, eats the pizza. Then he's like riding a guy, and he throws them at the pole cues. And he uses the pool balls as like a weapon. It's so over the top and ridiculous. It's fantastic.
That's Shimomura-san and his creativity. The cutscene director, he's just a super creative guy. I was so my partner, my old company, Just Cause, they're still around, but my partner and I were just forming the company at the time and pitched Shimomura-san to direct. We pulled him in because he was already a friend of mine, and I knew of his wacky, creative ways of doing things. So we said, hey, Capcom, you should bring this guy in and use him to direct this if you're going to go this direction. And they did, and it's it's spun off, and he's been a key aspect of Dante's wackiness. So hats off to Shimomura-san and again, his ideas and his action mind it's just vast, and he's able to execute and do some really cool stuff.
Yeah. Did you ever hear any more about what was going on with the Netflix anime or Capcom or anything since we talked like back in November? November.
Just that yeah, Ari and the producer, he's been doing his thing, and it's moving along. I guess it's coming out. So I've been seeing some trailers, and it's got that vibe, that DMC3 vibe. So looks pretty cool.
Yeah. No, and now I think Adi Shankar, someone was complaining about you to him, and he was like, he defended you. He was like, no, he's cool. We can disagree. I like him.
Yeah, I like what Ari's doing. I think this anime is gonna be a really big boost for the Devil May Cry franchise, and to just keep to give it another direction. However it ends up playing out so far from what I'm seeing, it looks great. I think it's keeping the core essence of Dante and what was sort of created with Devil May Cry 3 with Shimomura-san, myself, and the Capcom team. So hats off to how I wish it the best success, because it's just keeping that wackiness and that energy alive.
Exactly. I didn't ask this the last time. This might be my last Dante question for you. How did you feel because after the further you got in the franchise, they tried to reboot it. And I remember that being the early 2010s, it was like super controversial. Now he's emo Dante. I don't know if you remember those.
Yeah, I remember that
arguments at all. What did you think of all that at the time?
Yeah, I was a bit bummed, but at the same time, this is still going back to the Devil May Cry 3. I think we struck gold in a sense with the team, the direction. It was an experiment. Capcom was trying something different, and so I was kind of giving them credit for at least trying. For the spinoff, they were working with, at the time, Ninja Theory that had created what was that game that they launched with the girl with the the sort of like the chain whip thing that
Soul Calibur?
No, it was kind of like a Ninja Theory, right? Ninja Theory, I think, was the name of the game company, and that game had some pretty interesting mechanics.
Heavenly Sword, maybe? Does
Was
that
that it?
ring a bell?
That sounds familiar. Yeah, maybe it was Heavenly Sword. So they got some street cred for that game. It was one of the earlier. I forget. Was that a PS?
PS3. Yeah.
Really? Okay. Yeah, and I think they brought in what's his name? Planet of the Apes guy. Gollum guy. What's his name?
Circus, Andy Circus.
Andy Serkis. They brought in Andy Serkis to, I think, direct some of the cutscenes. And anyways, what they had done with Heavenly Sword was pretty revolutionary at the time, and Capcom wanting to sort of get in on some of that action. I think they reached out to Ninja Theory and the creators to give a different look and feel, and have that what had already again been created, and then sort of add on to that, go to the next level. So I was, that's Capcom. They take risks. They try stuff and do things differently. At the time, I don't know where things are at now, but at the time, it was like, okay, it kind of bummed they're going this direction and leaving the what we had created, but understandable. You got to try things out and test the waters. And to their credit, they tried it. The fans were not so happy. I think a lot of people enjoyed some of the gameplay aspects, good game mechanics, but the characters that people had fallen in love with, they were like, we don't like the direction. So then they returned, and they came back with Devil May Cry 6 or 5. So it was it was I wouldn't say a completely failed attempt, but it was an adventure, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, that was the era they were doing like a whole bunch of like American studio games. I remember Dark Void, which that one was one I enjoyed. I'm trying to think of the other names. I'm really embarrassed because I played a lot of Capcom, but I'm going totally blank on you.
Yeah, so of course I was bummed not being picked to reprise the role, and again, clearly they were going in a very emo different direction, so understandable. But again, the fans spoke, and we were able to come back for 5, and good times.
Yeah, no, and the other thing I was thinking was Bionic Commando. There we go.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it had some aspects of that. Even the Devil May Cry thing had some aspects of Bionic Commando. But yeah, I think that one super failed, right? That was like a major
yes.
financially.
I thought I liked it, but it had some, like, you find out in the end, like his arm, it's like, spoilers for people who haven't played this game that came out in 2009, but you find out his superpowered metal arm is actually his wife's. It's his wife. And it doesn't
something like that. Yeah.
Like, oh, this was already pretty weird, and it just got a whole lot weirder.
You can't fault them for not trying.
No, that is true. They did try quite a bit. They really went out there. It will be great though. Like if this gets some more DMC energy, get DMC 6 somehow.
Hey, that would be if the anime can help push that forward, that would be awesome. Again, if that, I don't know how that would evolve into bringing myself back and bringing the old storyline back, because I think this is sort of like it's going back to 3, and it's in that sort of realm or that storyline. So who knows? But yeah. Either way, it's great for the franchise. It's great for the characters, and again, I'm just honored to be a little part of that history and having carried it up to all the way till Devil May Cry 5. So excited. I'm glad that fans are excited, and that Ari and others are there's something magical. There's a magical formula there. All these years later, we're talking about it. So something's going on.
Yeah, no. I got this note. I would say when we did our show last time, the comments were about 75% positive, maybe 25% negative. But some of the positive ones really good. I just kind of wanted to point this one out to you. Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, this one is from The Beast Gohan. This is one of the most popular comments, 400, now 476. It says, this man's portrayal of Dante in DMC3 helped me get through high school. I got beat up a lot, but I continued to smile and talk shit. But it also allowed me to fake confidence enough to talk to my crush. And because of that, we ended up married with 4 kids. Smiley face. People always say this or that changed my life, but seeing Dante literally bettered my life. Even the butt kicking gave me thicker skin. So,
I get stories. I'm doing a convention appearance coming up here in next month, beginning of next month in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, and when I do these convention appearances, people come up and they share stories like that, and it blows my mind. I'm like, wow, the power of media, right? The video games at the time creating it. Never in a million years would I had thought that we're still talking about it, all these years later, and it had such an influence on people. But then I have to remind myself that, me growing up, I had the shows that I watched and loved. The influence that they had on me were, Macross. I've talked about this in the past. I'm a huge anime lover, and one of the reasons I came to Japan was to follow my passion of otakuism, right? Anime and games and whatnot. So, but it's still, either way, it still blows my mind and humbles. It's very humbling to get those stories. So I'm just, I'm in awe all the time.
I think that I just love that kind of thing. I just thought that was really positive when put that past you.
Sure, for sure.
So show you it wasn't just a complete waste of your time.
Oh no, and I love doing these talks and sharing whatever I can that people will get excited about and hear stories that maybe they didn't know, or those types of things. But it's been so long, and I feel like we've done so many interviews over the years that sometimes I forget all the little things, but sometimes stuff pops up and you're like, oh yeah, that happened and this happened, and oh wait, I haven't talked about that yet. So I'm looking forward, and it's usually when we get together at this convention in Milwaukee, we're going to have Brian and Faye, who were portrayed Nicolette and V. So on set, all this stuff happens on set that you kind of forget about. Dan's going to be there as well, so Trace Virgil. So we get together and we're on these panels. We go back to memory lane and we were like, oh yeah, that happened and this happened, and then you start sharing stories that you kind of forget, and I think the fans love that stuff, and it's fun for us because we get to go back down memory lane. So always a good time.
Cool. Some of the things I want to dive into, I titled the section Stuntman Chronicles. If you look at your IMDb, I think you have at least 50 different movies that you have credits to.
That many? Wow. I don't know. I've lost count over the years.
Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean was one that kind of really jumped up, but it wasn't the only one. You've had quite a bit. We talked about last time The Medallion.
Oh yeah, The Medallion. Good time.
I like The Medallion. I like The Medallion. I also like, what's the one where Jackie's in a white suit? The suit, maybe?
Tuxedo?
Yeah, the tuxedo. Yeah. I like that one too.
That he came right to our set. Literally, him and the team flew to Thailand. There was 2 shoots that I was part of. There was a 3rd shoot in Ireland, but this is on The Medallion, and we shot in Thailand and we shot in Hong Kong, and he was in between shooting Tuxedo. So they were going back and forth. His team were going back and forth to Canada to shoot Tuxedo. And I remember he came, literally, they wrapped on Tuxedo and came straight to Thailand. And we had already been in Thailand sort of prepping and getting things ready for him and his team. And they just got off the plane and went right on set. And we were filming in the jungles of Thailand. It was crazy. Just the amount of work that guy, the workload that he takes on. It's just amazing.
That's amazing. That is pretty incredible. You've worked with some real legends over your career.
Yeah. I've been very blessed. On Avatar, working with James Cameron, obviously, but the early days I was part of the testing for Tintin, the film Tintin, directed by Spielberg and Peter Jackson.
Yeah, the animated film.
The animated one. So it was animated, but a lot of it was motion capture. Most of it was motion capture. So I actually was working with Andy Serkis. We just mentioned him. So Andy Serkis, myself, and two other stuntmen were just in one room with James Cameron, Spielberg, and Peter Jackson. And it was this like intimate setting where we're filming this action scene with for Tintin, and Andy was the drunk. He was playing the Captain Haddock, I think was the character's name. This drunk captain, and Tintin was running away from, I was playing a henchman, this dock worker that was trying to, get Tintin and capture him. And we had to go create this fight action scene. So it was kind of about a week of filming, and just a cool, fun time to hang out with legends that, and just to be part of that creative experience was quite memorable.
When you were meeting someone like Jackie Chan or like Steven Spielberg, do you have to like try to have some self-control and not geek out too much, get too excited?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you put on your poker face. Yeah, I'm like geeking out right now, totally. But I'm actually, trying to stay professional and not lose it. For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That's so. I forgot. Yeah, those three guys actually worked on the same movie together, which is just bonkers.
Actually, I don't think Cameron was there. They were using his studio because the technology at the time that he had really pioneered with Avatar hadn't been open sourced, or he had sort of all the cool tools, and it was so they were kind of using his studio to do those tests. And so he was there, he was on set, he'd kind of coming in and out. Mm-hmm. But he wasn't actually part of the full direction. It was more Peter Jackson and Spielberg.
Other big ones, Pirates of the Caribbean. I think you were on the third movie? That sounds right.
The third one, yeah. They were shooting 2 and 3 at the same time? I think they were shooting 2 and 3 at the same time for the most part, but I was part of the big in-battle scene where the two ships started going in they interlocked and they started going into this vortex thing, and it was a massive scene. They built full replicas of the ships in I think it was Palmdale, California, in these in a giant aircraft carrier warehouse, and it was just this massive set. These two ships with giant green screen all around, and and they were on these robotic arms, and in just the scale of things, it was something out of an amusement park. And then to think that they're just building this for these scenes, for these final scenes of the film, and it was a couple months shoot. I think, how long was I on there? At least a month. I felt like probably total about a month, but it was over the course of several months.
Just to film
to film the last scene. Yeah,
the final scene.
The amount of money going into those scenes in those films, just mind-boggling. And you had Johnny Depp and the crew, very, very respectful and just a great time to, again, talking about geeking out, you're there with working with people that you see on screen all the time, and then you get to meet them in person and, not hang out, so to say, but on set, there's a lot of downtime while they're fixing the lights and getting in between setups for scenes. So you're just off to the side and you're kind of shooting the shit with these guys, and it's pretty cool.
Wow. I'm not sure. Did we talk much about last time about you were on Avatar? That's one of the first things that comes up when we look up your name.
Did we mention Avatar last time? I don't know, but yeah, that was definitely a highlight of my life, playing and becoming Jake Sully, in a sense, the motion capture version of Jake. So I was one of the main stunt doubles for a good portion of Avatar 1. So when Jake's figuring out how to use his body and falling over things and, trying to get on the horses and figuring out how to ride the what do they call it? The flying guys.
I have no idea.
I forgot their names, but even when he got on the Torah 2, he became Torah 2, right? And he flew the big, the Thanador, I think it was called. But yeah, the Banshee, right? He was learning how to fly his Banshee. So yeah, all of these different parts of the film were actually me, running away, and it was a good time. So that was a 4-year journey working on that film.
Well, yeah, no, he sat on that thing. I mean, Cameron put like a ton of work into each of these. Now he's put a ton of work. How do you when you watch these with like your wife or like a family member, how do you like, do you like point the screen when you see like Jake Sully's back, he's like backside, like, that was me, look there?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I kind of let them figure it out. My wife's pretty good. She's like, oh, I can tell that this was you, that was you. And I'm like, oh yeah, how'd you know? And like, well, I know how you walk. I can see, I know your movements, enough that she can spot it on the screen when it is a specific movement or something. I don't know how she does it, but I'm like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that was me. Yeah, that was me. So, but a good portion of the film, actually, one of the highlights, talking about geeking out. So the Thanador chase, was it Thanador chase? Yeah. In the beginning of the film, Jake ends up getting lost in the woods, right? So he's trying to figure out where he's at, and before he gets lost, he's with Sigourney Weaver, and he's got his gun aimed, and he goes, do I run, or do I, what do I do here? And then she yells, run, and then he takes off, he bolts, and he goes for a run. So as soon as he's from this position to running, that's all me, that whole scene. And all the way until his backpack gets grabbed and he's shaken and he falls out, and then he runs and he gets, jumps off the cliff into the water, and even some of the water stuff. So that entire scene was me, basically. And Cameron, once that was one of the early scenes that came back from Weta, because the scene was sort of composed and dialed in and edited, and all the motion capture movement was then created, and then it was sent to Weta in New Zealand, that was processing all the animation to give it that realistic look. And that was one of the first scenes that was sent to Weta and then came back. And before, we were still in the middle of shooting, and it just had come off the interwebs or whatever. They'd just gotten it, and Cameron pulls me aside. He literally shuts down the whole, there's crew and everybody's waiting on set, and he's like, Reuben, come on. And he pulls me back into the back room, the editing bay, and he's like, check it out, and shows me the scene. And it's just me and him, and my jaw drops. I'm like, holy crap, this is crazy. This is what this thing's going to look like. And he's like, yeah, that's all you. I just wanted to show you, this is you. Thanks for making this happen. And I'm like, oh, awesome. What an honor. So those were some of those awesome moments that you're just like, okay, this is going to be groundbreaking. And it was, obviously at the time. But up until then, we hadn't seen anything like that, right? It was visually, it was just something so different and so visceral that we're just like, holy moly. So it was a cool, nice little moment on set there.
Wow. That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
What about, I don't know, we'll try something. You've also done TV. Is TV work much different than movie work? I mean, maybe the scale is different. You did show like
scale. Yeah, you're just talking scale, budget, time. So, you've got Pirates of the Caribbean where they're spending 3-4 months on this massive scene that's going to last, 10 minutes on film, where on TV you've got, you don't have the time to do that stuff. So you blast through and what on a bigger scale budget film, you've got months to do something that you would have to get done in a couple hours with TV. So it's a hurry up and get it done kind of thing on TV. And yeah, so but basically the process is the same. There's no difference other than time and money.
Which did you prefer working on? Did you like TV or movies better?
The catering on films is much better. So I preferred that, but the quality of TV these days. I haven't been on a TV set. My last TV set experience was in 2020 in the middle of COVID, on a Netflix show, and I'm sure things have changed a lot even since then, but TV is usually, it's a lot of rush, hurry up, because you're always fighting time. You don't have the time or the budgets to produce things. So it's really about being efficient and just getting as prepared and things done. Where on movies, it's like usually there's more time, there's more leeway, there's a little less pressure. There's obviously huge pressure because there is so much money involved. You have to produce an awesome product, but you're not fighting that clock as bad as you are on the TV stuff. So, and there's pluses and minuses to that, but yeah, I mean, I think if I had a choice, in general, I would pick a movie over a TV show.
Okay. I like that. Is there a big difference between working on Western productions versus Eastern productions in terms of like the style they do it, or maybe safety or anything like that, as a stunt person?
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, the safety on set for Asian films, because I've spent a lot of time working in Japan and Hong Kong, Thailand. I'd say back in the day, definitely there was a major difference. I think the safety on productions in the States was much higher. But all of that has sort of balanced itself out now. Now that budgets in Asia have gotten bigger, a lot of techniques, a lot of actors and performers and stunt people have been on both sides of the ocean. So like myself, I would take, oh shoot, can we pause this for one moment?
Yeah.
A few moments later.
Welcome back.
All right. I don't know. Did you pause the recording or did
No. I just we were just talking about the difference between Eastern and Western productions, but I think we covered that enough.
Yeah. So a lot is caught up. There still is obviously budgetary differences. Hollywood worldwide, they send, they've got a bigger outreach, so they're able to inject more money into their projects. Where like in Japan or China, they're a little more limited on budgets. China, though, because of the masses, the film, the audience has grown so big over the years they've been able to inject a lot more into their films, taking more risks. So the pay, since I started this industry back in the early 2000s or late 90s, actually, I was working and living in Hong Kong. The pay grade for stunt performers has massively changed, which is, I think, a great thing, just to see, because the amount of risk taken by a lot of the China performers and Hong Kong stunt performers, the risk reward was not much. They were given a lot and not getting much. Where now, safety levels have increased, techniques, and their pay has gone way up. So it's been nice to see that have that change, that positive change in that world.
Is it okay to ask, have you ever been injured from doing stunt work? Do you have like...
Oh yeah, that's part of the job. You get injured, it's a daily basis. You're getting injured. The goal though is to not get injured where you can't work. So, bumps, bruises, sprains, hopefully no concussions, but some concussions. You try to stay away from all of those things. But it's inevitable. You're going to get hurt just from the amount it's just almost impossible not to. But the key is to get to a place where you're not going to be injured majorly, so you can continue to work. And that's, that just comes with the territory.
Did you ever what maybe this is way too morbid. Have you ever been grievously injured? Like you broke an arm or a leg or anything like that?
Yeah, I've broken bones, but not on set, mostly on other projects. I remember on Avatar, I tore my meniscus, and it was, luckily it was the last week of shooting a bunch of tests before we were going to take a break for the winter holidays. So I tore it, and doing some stupid thing. A reaction I've done a million times, and then just for whatever reason, my foot got stuck on the mat, and my body went one way, my knee went the other way, and some of the computer guys saw it, and they were like, at first thought it was a computer glitch, because that happens all the time, and then they look back at the footage of the reference footage of the act of what was really going on, like, oh my God, what's going on there? That's not supposed to happen. I'm like, no, it wasn't supposed to happen that way. My knee kind of came out of place, and I put it back in. But then I had to continue to work on it for a few days. And then we took a break, so it got to heal up a little bit, and I had a brace on, but I kept re-tearing it. So before it could fully heal, I'd do some crazy thing, and then it would tear again, and then I would be out of commission for a day or two, and just tape it up, and get take a bunch of painkillers and keep on going. And that was the old mentality. But I've got my war wounds. I've got I don't even know if you can see it here, probably not, but I've got you can't see it. Broken collarbone from a bike accident stunt that happened in Thailand. And my collarbone reset, so it's all different. I've got torn ACL in my left leg, torn MCL. The MCL healed, the ACL didn't heal, and I'm missing an ACL. I never did the surgery, so lots of bumps and bruises over the years. It's just it comes with the territory.
Okay. Oh, yeah. You remind me of my brother. He's a doctor now, but I remember one time he hurt his wrist. And he hurt his wrist pretty bad. They needed to get surgery done. So they put it in a cast. But he kept wanting to do things. And even when he was working on projects, he was camping, he was using the cast on the wrist to hammer things in place. I'm like, I don't think you're supposed to be doing that. I don't think that's going to help. Oh, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Now he's probably got a protruding bone coming out of his wrist.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I talked to him today. I was like, yeah, that was real stupid. I should not have done that.
It's the male ego is definitely something to be reckoned with. So we get in especially in the martial arts world, stuntmen. We definitely want to be the tough guy and he can handle this or that. But looking back, you're like, I probably should have done that. I probably should have taken a couple of days off and healed up properly. But whatever.
Yeah, age and wisdom.
Age and wisdom. Yep.
Yeah, I think one of the times when you were working on your UFO documentary, maybe this is a good transition to some of the UFO stuff. You were shooting a documentary in Guatemala in like 2019. I think you got attacked. Someone was shooting at you. They broke into your car.
Well, yeah, it was a miracle. We were kind of got off the beaten path. Google was taking us different directions, and all of a sudden we're driving down this neighborhood, bumper to bumper traffic, and this guy opens fire on our car. I didn't know our back window got blown out, and we're hearing the noise and stuff, and didn't know in the instant that it happened. I didn't know what was going on. I thought someone like threw a brick through our back window or something, and or hit the back window, and it sort of shattered. It didn't fully fall away. So we couldn't see out the back window, and I looked in my rearview mirror, and there's a guy, running up to the car, and I could see clearly a gun in his hand. And I was like, "Oh shoot, is this guy, trying to rob us? What's the deal?" All your mind's going a million miles a minute in that moment. And luckily, just before all of that, we got sort of attacked or ambushed. My buddy driving the car locked the doors. I think just because his instincts were like, we're in a shady neighborhood, let's lock the door. So the guy runs up. He tries to open the door. I'm looking at him through the window, and he can't get in. And I'm thinking he's trying to, come in, rob us, hold us at gunpoint and probably take our cameras or something. But then he couldn't get in, and then I saw the gun start to come up. His gun hand, and then something, I don't know if this is intuition, psychic, something or whatever. Like I knew this guy was not, I could maybe just see in his eyes, this guy's intent was not to rob us. He was going to kill us. So I screamed at the, top of my lungs. I'm like, go, 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 as the gun's coming up. And my buddy, not even, luckily his instincts kicked in. He didn't even see what was happening. He just instinctively heard me screaming, and we were bumper to bumper traffic. So he goes off into against traffic the other way, peels out, and as he's driving away, peeling away and going head on into traffic coming the other direction, the guy unloads his clip. The rest of it, I think he had already popped off 3 bullets, 3 or 4 that did the initial damage, and then bullets are flying into the car. Stuff is, it's insanity in the split second moments. And then he's going against traffic. It's, it's like a Born Identity movie coming, his car's coming head on at you. You're getting shot at, and you're trying to get away here.
Yeah.
And then, he's dodging cars as they're coming head on, going up on the sidewalk and stuff. And then we get up to this top of this hill, and we're, again, just deadlocked traffic. We can't move either side. We're stuck. And I look in the rearview mirror, the dude's bolting up the hill still at us. And I'm like, he's
the world.
It's like a Terminator movie, right? So, my buddy's just trying to, he's pushing the cars to the limits, trying to make, headway to get traffic. And then traffic eventually moves, and then he skids off and tries to get ahead. We go over the hill, down, and then we come to another section of traffic, just gridlock traffic. There's nowhere to go. We turn the corner. So now I'm looking in the rearview mirror. again, because we can't see out the back, to see if this guy's going to bolt around the corner. And my mind's spinning a million miles a second. It's like, okay, if he bolts, do we get, clearly we're trapped. We can't move forward in this car. So it's like the longest, it probably was just 30 seconds, but it felt like 10 minutes. And my mind's making all these calculations of, okay, if he comes around the corner, do I bolt out of the car? And because then I'm less of a target if I'm able to, jump between other cars and stuff. If I do that, what's my buddy going to do? Is he going to be defenseless by himself? Is he going to bolt as well? All of this calculation is happening. And it was like, definitely like one of those movie scenes where everything slows down, and you can hear a pin drop. Luckily, he didn't come around the corner. Traffic eventually started to move again, and my buddy was able to drive us out of that situation. And then we were just kind of like, whoa, what happened there? But through the luck of, the ETs or the angels or whatever you want to say, all those bullets that went into the car, they just missed barely. I kept reaching back to my back thinking I was bleeding. And I kept checking because I did actually, a bullet hit the back seat and there was this little metal plate. I got the bullet somewhere. And it literally, this plate, this size of a plate, a bullet was lodged into the plate and gave me a little love tap. Definitely felt it in my back. And, if that plate wasn't there, that bullet would have been in my back. So, so that was lucky. And then just the trajectory of all the bullets, we kind of looked at the car damage afterwards and we're like, holy moly, it's just a miracle that these bullets just narrowly missed us through that crazy event. So yeah, they're as peaceful as a documentary filmmaker may seem, sometimes it's more dangerous than making movies, stunt stuff.
That's crazy. Did you, I'm assuming, because eventually it came out in the press, so I'm assuming maybe you did talk to law enforcement. Were they ever able to find the guy?
We actually didn't go to the police. We were like, what if the police are in on it? We were in Guatemala, right? So okay. We were like, well, what do we do? We called our friend who is an elder, a Mayan elder there in Guatemala, Antigua. And she's like, yeah, you guys probably should just go back to you don't want to drive around with the bullet riddled car. So we went back. We weren't actually that far from the rent-a-car place. So we went back, took the car and returned it and got a different car. And they sort of were like, whoa, what's going on here, guys? And they're like, hey, you tell us, is this like a normal thing in Guatemala? We don't know. And they're like, no, we haven't seen too much of this, but good thing you guys are safe. And I think, the rent-a-car company filed a police report and whatnot, but it was pretty casual, actually, the whole thing. We didn't get police involved at the time. I don't know if they came in later.
Yeah, I don't know. You're bringing in that car. It's like, I don't know if bullet holes are covered under this or what. But
we were, we got the extra insurance, but they said that we didn't. And then I remember it took several months to get, because I had to pay like $5,000 in damages up front. And then to get reimbursed from the insurance company, it took some finagling.
What a headache.
Yeah, it was quite the ordeal, and more, and not just in getting shot, but dealing with insurance and everything else.
Holy cow! Did you ever think like did you ever think like if this gets to hand combat, right? Were you thinking like I'd be good because you got the martial arts, right?
Yeah, no, when it comes to guns, and that's one of the trainings, a realistic martial artist. If you're ever taught in martial arts that you can go up against a gun, you should find a new teacher. It's just
probably.
that it's not, in the movies we do all the fun, extravagant things, but it's just not. You don't, when someone has a gun, you comply. You don't try to martial art your way out of that, for sure. So no, that was not even a part of my in my imagination. When where I was going was like, how the hell do I, get away from this guy? How do I get, do I bolt from the car and hide behind other cars? My instincts were just to get as far away as possible. You don't fight something like that.
Okay. I guessed as much, but I thought it'd be interesting to ask you. I've heard it's also the same for like someone with a knife, etc. It's just like, nope.
Yeah, I mean, typically you don't. I mean, if you don't have a choice, you do what you do. But if there's an option to run, you run. That's my words of wisdom to anyone in that type of situation.
Yeah, that's reality versus like fun entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. Take it from the guy who makes entertainment for a living.
That's wild. So yeah, UFO. You have a real passion for unidentified flying objects, that kind of phenomena. You have a TV show / YouTube channel / podcast / documentary. I just had it right in front of me.
Interview with Ed.
Interview with Ed. There we go.
Extra dimensional.
I think we touched this a little bit at the end of the last one, but what is your motivation? Because you are someone that's super interested in the UFO topic. And I think you had mentioned that when you were younger, that you had an experience with an alien, and that's kind of what inspired you to continue into this foray.
Well, it wasn't that long ago. It was 2007. I was actually on still working on Avatar. And I had a UFO sighting. I recall it as a fleet. I would say a fleet of crafts, of ships. They were far out, so I don't even know if they were ships or just what the plasma balls or whatever. But I had a sighting that definitely. I think we did talk about this in the last podcast. But I had a sighting that awakened me to the idea that we're not alone. And then my curiosity got the best of me, and I researched and wanted to find out what I'd seen, and went down the rabbit hole, as many people do, and realized there's a cover up there's a government, an intentional government cover up, and we're finding that out nowadays. We're having congressional hearings and testimony come out. Documentaries have been for years and decades. Documentaries have been made on the subject, but it's reaching a boiling point now where too many people are having too many experiences, and it's sort of said like the toothpaste can't be put back into the tube. It's coming out, and more people are having these experiences. So for me, the reason why, I mentioned, I think this as well before, is the reason why I feel it's such an important subject is it changes our worldview. At least for me, it did personally. It changed everything on how I perceived reality, from knowing that we're not alone, that there are visitors from other worlds, other dimensions, however you want to package that, but not from here, that are using technologies coming into our reality and coming and going at will, as it appears, and then what are the ramifications for these visitations, not just in a sort of a worldview, esoteric or religious belief thing, but beyond that, what are the energy ramifications? And we talked about that as well in the last podcast about the energy cover-ups, and that really it gets your mind going in many directions, and I think that's the key, and that's why I've been such an advocate for disclosure or for these types of conversations. Is it gets people out of the sort of the comfort zone, the box that I believe has been intentionally put on us as a collective to keep the secrets going as long as possible, so few can benefit off of the masses not knowing what's really going on.
Yeah, it is interesting with all the releases we've had, even from governments across the world. It most of what has come out, it basically amounts to, yeah, we encountered this really weird stuff. Especially they're seeing we'll see encounters with like military aircraft, and then there will be some kind of, what are they calling a UAP, something like that.
UAP is the new term that they're using. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, this is faster. It just breaks everything we know about physics. It can turn things on and off. It's what's so interesting to me is like that just because they didn't really have an answer for that, they still felt that very high need to control and censor information around it.
Yeah, I mean, the last hearings that we had in Congress back in November were we had disclosures of, and this has been out, this is public knowledge for many years, but on a congressional level, to have that testimony is talking about the UAP task force that, or I'm sorry, the UAP retrieval programs, where there are groups within government that actually go out and find these craft, and then they pick them up and bring them in for reverse engineering programs and stuff like that. So there's also Jake Barber, who recently came out and started talking about programs that he was involved in, where not only is he part of the UAP retrievals, but he's also part of calling them in, summoning, which is something that I do in my spare time. And we have contact experiences. So for him to talk at that level as a government official, and that's something that they do and as well. So there's a lot of disclosures coming out on levels that people are thinking that a lot of this stuff is just woo and crazy and out there stuff. We're getting disclosures almost daily now that this is a much bigger, or basically all the conspiracy theorists are right. Is kind of where it's all going.
It is interesting. My feeling on it is that I think that you are right, that there is definitely something going on, but what it is or the nature of it, totally, I'm not so certain. But I would wouldn't it be fascinating if you were like, you were a U.S. senator with type access from like the president, or you could access that information?
Well, even they can't access it. That's some of the stonewalls that we have in Congress, and why Congress is up in arms right now is because there's been a slow trickle and release of information, and they're being stonewalled at trying to get more. Matt Gaetz and Aluna, what's her name, Representative Aluna, they have been sort of at the forefront. Nancy Mace, they all have been stonewalled trying to get more information on these projects, and they're taken into skiffs and given tidbits of information, but they're constantly being stonewalled. So what they're discovering is what the researchers like myself have known for years, is that this is above presidents. The subject and the information, which is hard to fathom, but it is actually against the Constitution and the government. But there are legal loopholes that are being used to keep the secrets going.
Okay, so like super duper high level information control.
Yeah, where I've had fellow researchers assassinated for getting too close to certain things.
Then you're like, okay, well, if that's true, then it's like, but why? So you're like, maybe there's some kind of advantage they think they have. I mean, what would you think would be the motivation for this secrecy?
Well, as I mentioned in our last podcast, it's a paradigm shift when it comes to energy. And especially when you're talking about technologies that can be weaponized. And if you're working, and if you are, a government agency like, the U.S. government that has the strongest military might in the world, and you have adversary governments like China in this case right now, Russia, and they also have their own UAP crash retrieval programs where they're capturing craft and reverse engineering. It's an arms race to see who has the best tech, or who can develop the best tech from reverse engineering these craft that are coming from different places in the galaxy or different dimensional realms that have technology that can go in and out of dimensions. And if you can reverse engineer that and make some cool tech to have an upper hand over another nation, then you're gonna use that to your advantage. It's basically a Cold War type scenario, using instead of using nukes, using reverse engineered ET tech.
Interesting. Yeah, my grandpa, both my dad and my grandpa, they served in the Missile Man Corps in the Air Force during the Cold War, and the culture that even they experienced at that time, super crazy. They're like there are, you said, like, rarely there are people that would get out of serving, being missile officers, that did end up with some severe mental health issues because the stress they were just constantly under. I mean,
Yep.
I've got to imagine, if I'm considering like they had that kind of stress, and there's that much security for, say, the nuclear arsenal, something that's even beyond that, I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, that's what we're dealing with. So that's why the secrecy is there. That's why people go missing. That's why this one of the reasons I think we're going to find out, if we ever do get a full release of the JFK files. There's probably information in those files about the programs, some of the secret programs been going on. So it is the highest secret that is part of our government and others.
I guess this is a good question for you. So how do you, though, as someone that's into UFOs and this whole area of research and interest, how do you vet that? Because then you're on this other side of it. You're away from more established science, more respected institutions. I mean, how do you, as a researcher, figure out, okay, so this is legit, this one's making it up? Is there a good way that you figure out with vetting, or does that come with experience and time? Like, how do you approach doing this? Because you have interviewed quite a few people. I think you have 3 seasons of shows for your show.
Yeah, so my show with the channelers, so that's a very different phenomenon. So we're talking, just to give you some context, you have the military, governmental, evidence-based aspects of the phenomenon, which is that's what they're talking about in Congress and everything. And then you have spiritual aspects, which are non-scientific, cannot be proven. And that's my show focuses on that. Initially, I was going down the rabbit hole. I produced the 2013 Citizen Hearing on Disclosure event. That was a mock congressional hearing with 6 former members of Congress, over $1 million budget, that we held a 5-day mock congressional hearing about just, we had brought in whistleblowers and government military people to disclose and create this setting as if Congress were to actually have official hearings, which they are finally having now. But back then, nobody would even touch the subject because it was too taboo. So at that time, I was dealing with government people, evidence-based stuff, and basically had a target on my back because of some of the rabbit holes I was going down. I ventured away from that because of the danger, and my life got messed with, and there was just a lot of things that I could tell if I had continued down that path. Like my friend Jeremy Corbell has been, he's been doing a great job of getting the word out, but his life has really been messed up because of some of the rabbit holes and things that he's been uncovering and putting out there. He's I think he's doing a great service doing what he's doing. But I chose a different path with my show, and to go into the spiritual aspects and trying to and the mechanism of channeling, and that's going more woo, where people go into a trance state, a meditative trance state, and they essentially allow themselves to be possessed by ETs or other dimensional beings. And then I have conversations with those beings. So So I'm asking them, hey, what's going on here? Why is humanity in the pickle it's in? Is this typical? What are we going to do? And these beings, 3 seasons of conversations, over 10 years of conversations, have, in a sense, in my opinion, given me the keys to the universe, to understand what's really going on and how to navigate these times of change.
Huh. But that is interesting.
So the government folks won't touch that with a 10-foot pole, because that's not touching on technology as far as the physical stuff that you can reverse engineer, make weapons with. That's what my buddy Jeremy, he's going down that path, and disasters. Every corner you turn, you're going to get opposition. You're going to get some sort of government agency breathing down your neck. Your phone's going to be tapped and all this stuff. When you start going into the woo-woo stuff, which is just a bunch of spiritual talk, it has, there's no, it's spiritual technology, which means, which is like the blueprint on how to be a good person and navigate reality in a spiritual sense. Then your, governments don't care about that. Like, yo, you want to be a good person, go be a good person. We don't care. We just want the tech. And it's sort of the chicken before the egg. It goes hand in hand. And my understanding is there has to be a spiritual maturity to humanity and to governments before we can actually access this these techs, the tech, in a way that's going to benefit humanity.
Yeah, that's what you said last time when you had your experience. That was like, we just weren't mature enough to handle all of it.
Yeah,
so we freak out, which is probably true.
So through my show, I try to really focus on those conversations and how we can better ourselves as individuals and as a collective, and how to shepherd in this new world, not through seeking it from the outside and governments gonna give us the answers, but we do it ourselves through an internal process of growing our spiritual understandings of how the world works.
That is interesting. I don't know how. I mean, you are a pretty smart guy, but it almost seems like what you're doing is almost like an alien version of the spiritualism movement of like the 19th and early 20th century, where we've gone to seances and they're trying to talk with people on the other side of the veil. And what you're doing just kind of reminds me of that somewhat. Because theirs was also, it's like they kind of went like, let's look at this objectively, or more science like in their thinkings about spirituality.
Yeah, and they got into some danger there because you had folks like Aleister Crowley and even the Nazis taking Maria, what's her name? There was a channeler that they actually commandeered and tried to get information out of her, connecting with beings from the Aldebaran star system to create weapons, in a sense. So what happens is when you're so solely focused on the technological aspects, and you use mechanisms like channeling or seances or these types of energies, the intention behind that is to benefit the individual by having an upper hand over another nation or another person or something like that. So the intention itself is one of hierarchical establishments of like, I want to have power over another. So therefore, with that intention, you're actually, in a sense, you're calling in beings or energies of that nature to that are also of a hierarchical construct that want to have power over others. So therefore, you're, in a sense, you're vibrationally matching to these darker entities with nefarious agendas. Therefore, you're getting information, and they're telling you how to navigate and do things, but in a very nefarious way. So therefore, you have, this is why you have the capturing of NASA, This is why you have many of the Nazis coming in through Project Paperclip, who were using these techniques to get information and build technologies, and they were quite successful, but again, not for the best intentions, for the benefit of all, but for the control and power for a few to have over the masses.
That's interesting. I have a number of disabilities, health problems, chronic pancreatitis. I know I'm at pretty high risk of like getting pancreatic cancer one day and some other heavy stuff. So these last few years, especially with some other health stuff I've been through, I've been very more aware of like my mortality and thinking about, what happens when we pass away, what's on the other side. So I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Thinking about on my point is come away, I'm Mormon LDS, Christian. So my general feeling is like that there probably are like spirits. I don't know if there are demons. My kind of feeling even with Stance is like, okay, so say they actually are spirits, but like my feeling is like you just don't know what you're messing with. That's kind of my feeling. It's like, you could be playing around, and if these things are real, why are you assuming automatically that you have the upper hand in this situation? And it's like I'm just not. That's my feeling. I'm not gonna mess around. I get bullied enough in this life. I don't need to be playing with the stuff on the other side.
Yeah, and this is where, for thousands of years, there are spiritual practices put into place through different indigenous ceremonies, depending on the different parts of the world, where they hold a very high frequency or intention. Intention can be translated into frequency of and creating a space when you do bridge these worlds and go into other realms, so to say, of the spiritual sense. It's very, very important to make a clean container, and this is why I'm such a advocate for frequency and intention, like I was saying. So, and if you watch my show, we talk about this a lot, about you don't want exactly what you said, and I think many religions are specifically Christian religions, Christian beliefs are created this protective mechanism to say, don't venture into these worlds because you're playing with fire, and for right reasons, because without proper protocols, you can easily connect to beings with not the best intentions. And this is why creating a sacred space and having proper intentions and going through different protocols, as many shamanic practices have done, are put into place to create a safe space. So the discernment is key. So anytime you're going into these spaces and making contact with beings in other realms, it is key. I think it's to just bunch it all as they're all demons is quite naive, because that's not the case. Clearly, in Christianic belief systems, we have angels, we have demons, there are energies of the light, and there are energies of the dark. And it's about aligning with which ones do you want to align with, and creating specific protocols and intentions to align with forces of light. And obviously there's many that can, there's the stories we get in scripture of talking about the wolves in sheep's clothing and these types of things. So again, understanding the nuances and the frequencies, and not going by image, but going by connecting through the heart and connecting in deeper ways. So you know what you're connecting with, and then you're able to discern which energies to connect with and which energies not to. Like if someone's carrying a gun with ill intent, you get out of there as fast as possible. Or if there's some being of love and light that is wanting to share information and energy for the benefit of all, as opposed to this hierarchical thing that we were talking about before. Well, those are the beings that I want to connect with.
All right. I mean, I don't know for certain exactly what's going on, but I do believe that there's more going on in the world than just, the physical side. And then, just reading stories of supernatural events or historical ghost hauntings or all kinds. It just seems like to me that there's got to be something else going on out there.
And that's part of the Great Awakening that's happening on the planet now. Is we are, contact with this idea of disclosure. We're getting this idea that, okay, beings from other dimensions are visiting us for our benefit, but also there are agendas at play. And as I mentioned, Alex Crowley and some of the darker agendas, and now we're slowly getting into, if we ever will, see the Epstein list and these types of things of these darker agendas that are happening, human trafficking and whatnot. These are all tied into much darker agendas that go into piercing the veil and connecting with energies with dark intentions. So there's two sides of the coin, and I think the idea is to not shun or shame it all, but to have an awareness and understanding of that there is a veil and there are energies beyond the veil, and we as individuals need to do good housekeeping, so to say, to keep clean intentions and good frequencies and vibrations, and to do the best to our ability to connect with positively oriented beings that and understand that there's negative ones out there, there's negative agendas, but to discern what those are and to make proper choices in our day-to-day lives.
Okay. I think that covers the alien stuff pretty well.
It opens a whole other door. It's way beyond aliens, actually. It's what we perceive as, I think the more we go into it, the aliens are there, but there's a lot more there than just aliens. If you go down the rabbit hole, you'll come to those conclusions. Yeah, most people do.
Yeah. No, I find it interesting. I mean, I'm not trying to pin you as a negative, but I mean, I've had times, especially my past. I used to be really big into listening to the radio, listen to a lot of ghosts, coast to coast.
Coast to coast. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been on coast times. Oh, that reminds me.
You've been on coast to coast, yeah? Yeah.
My wacky woo talk. Actually, the producer reached out to me. I got to get back to him.
Awesome. Yeah, they're on a new host now, I think, right? Because they just
George Norrie. Yeah.
Wow.
He's Art Bell is retired, or I think we lost Art Bell recently, not too long ago. But it's definitely one of the shows that opens our minds and imaginations. And
cool.
Been talking about discernment, something that we need to have when we listen to shows like that.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll go. My third big topic, I wanted to talk about, because you've been in the video games industry, you've been in the movie and TV industry, you've been on both sides of the coast. A big thing that's entering now is going on with AI, and we're seeing AI threaten to leverage these huge advances in technology, especially large language models, and they're kind of threatening to change everything, especially for creative types like me, writer, journalist. There's this worry, like someone like me will just kind of get pushed out of the picture. Recently, we had this story about, I think I messaged it to you earlier on Zoom. I don't know if you saw it. Yeah, and it was
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, I'll just show a clip for the viewers real quick. With Aloy voice actress Ashley Birch, and she was saying that Sony had this demo for a Horizon Zero Dawn game, and she was made aware of it afterwards, and she did not feel very comfortable with what they're doing, so she spoke out. And she's not the only one I've heard that is nervous about it. So there are big changes happening. I'd love to hear your insights. Like, how much do you think has changed? If it does change, what would be the impact? What do you think might happen in our future with all this tech?
Yeah, I mean, big changes are coming for sure. They're already here, but to more, with the advancement at the speed that technology is being developed, is something unlike we've ever seen with other technical advancements. So for sure, I think it'll be here. It is here, but it'll be developing even further and become more of a norm than anything else that we've seen, technologically, that is. So, but at the core, and this is what I'd like to remind folks, is technology. Everybody's always been afraid of technology. This is part of our human evolution, and somehow we always manage, right? Look at the internet. When the internet came online and people were sending emails, it was this new revolutionary technology to do things that were going to be more efficient, save money, and we thought from one perspective it was going to save the world and we're all going to be, never have to work again. And from the other perspective, it's demonic and we're all going to get taken over by the evil robots. And somehow we've kind of landed in the middle of that, where we are today. If we look back, in the early 90s when this technology was just starting to make its way into the masses. So I think we're in a similar situation where it's, from one perspective, it's the end of the world and we're all going to be taken over by the robots again. Or it's going to solve all of our problems and we're all going to, never have to work. We're kind of looking at that with AI as what we did with the internet back in the late 90s. So my words of wisdom would be, it's probably going to land somewhere in the middle. I don't think we need to, it's not the end of the world. I think if we embrace it, again, with positive intention, we can move the direction into something that'll benefit humanity. Will jobs be lost? Absolutely. Will new jobs be created? Absolutely. So this is just part of the evolution that we've always gone through with our technological advances, and we just need to balance it out and keep moving forward. But overall, as a creator, I think what it does, like the internet did for so many back in the late 90s, is give tools to a creator that only Hollywood had access to before. Unless you had a big budget, unless you had a lot of money, you couldn't create certain visual images and things, where now, a guy in his basement can create a multi-million-dollar looking visual budgeted project. But at the end of the day, now that we've sort of been oversaturated with all of these visual this visual stimulation that's come out of Hollywood, that's rampant on the internet and our TV shows and everything else. At the end of the day, all of that doesn't mean anything unless you have good storytelling. And no matter what, even though AI is being used to write scripts and tell stories, it's still the human aspect, the human story that always prevails, that the resonator that we all connect with is the trials and tribulations of the human, of what is the human doing. And the human storytelling, even if it's about robots, WALL-E or whatnot, we still have a human story arc that's being woven through the different visual aspects. So that will never go away. And as long as we as creators recognize that and know that, as long as we stay on the cutting edge of good storytelling, then we'll always have there's job security for eternity if you're a good storyteller.
But you're not concerned, like, for your stunt motion work or...
Oh, absolutely. That's all going to go away. Yeah. I mean, the need for someone to do the stuff that I did that put myself in danger or put others in danger, If you can do the same thing with the computer, why would I risk, unless it's for the joy of doing it, which that'll never go away as well. It's for the joy. If you're doing it for fun, and like you showed earlier, the Devil May Cry, Wirework stuff, that was fun, and I did it for fun, and I created this, as a group, we all pushed our limits to what we could create at the end of the day. But if you're talking about a Hollywood movie and you're doing it for storytelling purposes, and there's another means to the end as far as doing it safely and visually, it's going to look better, and there's no reason to risk people's lives. I'm for sure anyone with a brain is going to choose the safer alternative, and especially if it's visually going to give the same result. So yeah, those industries are going to have to change, just as the stunt industry has adapted with CGI over the years, and it's become an integrated storytelling with what the limits of a person can do, mixed with CGI elements, and blending those worlds. As Devil May Cry is a video game, we were in the video game, and you can do a lot more in those worlds than you can in physical reality. But and it's still, as long as it's entertaining and those visual stories can still be told, it's just a change of the medium. So what I think is it helps us as individuals level up. We are going to have to become better storytellers.
So if they said, if you were, okay, so they're like, okay, so Reuben, they're making DMC6. Congratulations. This is excellent. And they say, we don't want to bring you in as many times for recording. So here's what we're going to do. We want you to read these. They give you like a few paragraphs. And we're going to use this to make an AI Reuben voice. And then you're not here. We're just going to use that guy. Would that be something that you would be comfortable with? Because that's kind of what I'm seeing where it's going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have to be because this is evolution. This is human evolution. To try to hold that back and to say, oh no, you can't do that, would be just the biggest ego trip ever. This is human evolution. If we don't adapt to these types, and yeah, my pay may get chopped down, I don't know, but most likely yes, because if a studio has an option to say, yeah, come in and record a handful of lines, and then out of that we're going to create everything else, if that gives the same effect that people aren't going to be able to recognize, if people recognize it and say, I can tell the difference, and I'd much rather have Reuben read these lines than the computer, then absolutely, that's going to be up to the audience to decide where that goes. But the direction it's going, you're right. I do believe we will get to a point where it's going to be indistinguishable. There will be computers that are going to be able to create the level of emotion, the quality of dialogue delivery. I don't think we're quite there yet, but for certain things, an audiobook or something like that, I have no doubt that that's just the direction things are going. So for me to fight that, and to say, no, you can't do that, good luck. They're going to go find a replacement. They're going to find somebody that sounds like Reuben Langdon and have him record those lines. And they're going to get the job, and they're going to get, at least that person gets one session in the booth to read those core seed phrases. And here I am out on the sidelines complaining to the world that this is unfair. This is just a reality check. The actors are gonna poo-poo it and holler at and scream at the top of their lungs. But this is a reality check, guys. This is technological advancements, and this is just how this has always happened. So you gotta roll with the punches and up your game, or find a new game.
Probably true. It's just hard, even as a news guy that's did some. I'm not exactly creative in terms of writing in the same sense that maybe you would do a project, but I like my little thing. I put a little bit of creative effort in my little thing, and I thought that
absolutely you've got job security. You've got job security. You've got your guest. You're having organic conversations. AI is not going to be able to take that away from you for a long time. As far as the voiceovers and video games and those types of things, yes, AI is definitely creeping on that industry very quickly here. So, yeah. I don't think you have to worry. I would be more worried for the voice actors out there that are trying to get their job security, so to say, and it's just like, give up, guys. Don't fight it. Yeah.
Yeah, probably true. I'm amazed. I mean, I guess two things. One is I'm amazed by the technology. Like on one hand, even when I'm a little like where do I fit in all this? It is pretty impressive what you can do. And every year, it seems like what they can pull off with AI techs, like the LLMs, for example, it's astounding. So it's like, wow, look where all this can go. The other thought is, people kind of frame you as this angry crank, at least the people on the Devil May Cry subreddit. I've never seen a subreddit hate the guy their thing is about more than that subreddit. It's kind of funny. You're not really all that cranky, to be honest. You're pretty optimistic overall.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm cranky, but I don't know. Everybody's got their perspective, but yeah, I think we're going in a great direction. Humanity has definitely got, the golden age is coming. So why would I be cranky about that?
It's good. That's healthy.
No, I don't. The internet is full of hate and people that that for so long have not had a voice, when it comes to saying this or that over specific topics, and what the internet has given power to people to give them a voice, and it's great. It's a great tool for that. But at the same time, people who aren't responsible with their voices, who don't know ramifications of cause and effect, and how what you put out is what you get back. They're like a fire hose, just spewing out whatever the first thing comes to their mind without critically thinking or going into deep thoughts about specific subjects. So what we get in these internet circles is just a lot of nonsense. And it's unfortunate, but at the same time, if it's helping someone vent or speak their mind and get what they need to say out, and if that's some sort of therapeutic help, then by all means, do what you got to do. But at the same time, we just hope that people would do a little self-reflection and see what, even on the internet, and I know the internet is not the real world, but some people do take it that way. So just know that, what you put out is what you get back. And even if it's in a virtual world like the internet, having some self-discipline and critical thinking, and looking at self-reflection of what you're doing could possibly cause harm to others, then it's always good to do that. So a word to those who don't have who don't have that, but most of those people who don't have that, most people tune those people out. So it's the people that matter are a little more self conscious about that stuff.
Yeah, I think people are becoming more self-conscious, because I think more people are realizing, like, we're stuck in echo chambers. Everyone wants to make money off you, making you mad. So I think people are beginning to realize that and kind of push things away, or make some more distance between them and what they're consuming. Or maybe I'm totally naive and this is just all hope casting from me.
Well, it's better, even if we are sort of trapped in our own echo chambers, let's create some good echo chambers of positivity and, hope and good vibes, and, let's and having fun, and these types of things, as opposed to the doom and gloom and all the negativity that we see on the internet. I'd much rather be trapped in a positive echo chamber than the negative one.
Yeah, I have lots of dog videos in mine.
Yeah,
I like those.
A cat person myself, but I
You
love the
seem like a cat person. That seems
lots of
appropriate.
cat videos, but I love the dog ones too. I love animals.
I guess we'll start wrapping this thing up here. What's in the future? What's on? What's your current projects, Reuben? What are you hoping to be working on?
Well, I've got the convention coming up in Milwaukee. I think it's what are the dates there? It's you should pull this up here. It is coming up very, very soon. MGC in Milwaukee on the 4th, 5th, and 6th. It's a large gaming convention. And gonna have a little reunion with the Devil May Cry cast there, so that's gonna be super cool. Otherwise, I'm still producing my show, my podcast, Interview with Ed, interviewwithed.com, all one word, and continuing to just look at other projects. I'm starting to develop on alternative energies, and the continued conversation about the ETs, which is always fun. But I think we're going to get to the space where things are going to start becoming more tangible, as they are, as we're having congressional hearings, as there's this talk of crash retrievals and if you go into those rabbit holes, the deeper discussions are now about the practical applications of some of the technologies that have been left here. And instead of using those in nefarious ways, how can we use those in positive ways? So redefining our energy paradigm and exploring those ideas are some of the projects that I'm working on now or coming in the near future. So very exciting, always something going on. And that's why I'm, have a positive outlook on the planet, because I'm physically seeing what's on the horizon.
Do you have any interest ever in trying to do? I mean, I know as you get older, stunt work is harder. But are you interested ever doing any of that again? At least even moonlighting?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I recently went snowboarding after a long stint of taking off and getting back into the, getting on a couple jumps and moving around and doing some fun stuff like that. I don't know if I would want to be just a stunt man as the the job title entails, just because there are a lot younger, more talented, amazing folks out there in this day and age. But always willing to put on the stunt performer hat when it comes to acting, and mixing in some of my martial art skills and fine tuning those. I'm actually gotten back into training with my Aikido, which is one of the martial arts I started out with. I've been doing that. I'm actually going to class in about an hour. So it's always something that I'm willing to put that hat back on and try. So no doubt, yeah, the physical stuff is always fun.
All right. Well, it seemed like you have a lot going on, enjoying life, living in Japan. I'm sure young Reuben, who had just moved to the place, would be pretty happy with how it's all turned out for you.
I think he would. Yes, for sure. It is. I cannot complain. I'm very blessed for all the opportunities that have come my way, and for where things are going. So anybody out there who tends to think that I'm a doom and gloom guy or whatever those labels they're giving me, it's total opposite. I'm very excited, very grateful, and excited for where everything is going.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap this up here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch Culturescape and listen to Reuben and I in today's episode. This show wouldn't be possible without viewers like you, and of course my editor, Chris Hollowicki, who makes me look way more competent than I actually am. Thank you again, Chris. And if you liked what you heard here today, be sure to subscribe to us down below on YouTube, give us a like. And if you want to hear more about Ed, if you want to hear more about Reuben, go to his show, which is called
Interview with Ed.
Interview with Ed. And I think we will call that, guys. So until next time, keep geeking out. Hey there, gang. If you are a fan of Culturescape, and I know you are, and want to get involved in supporting the show, well, now you can. By joining the Culturescape Patreon, you'll help support me and my editor, Chris, as we create the show and produce more quality journalism. For just $5 or $10 a month, you not only help us, but get access to our exclusive members-only Discord. You'll also get to vote on and suggest new guests for the interview. So if you are a fellow weeb and love Culturescape, then come join us today on Patreon.